I'll be curious to get y'all's thoughts on it because we have talked about this in the past. Hold on.
Captain America is a
let me go back.
movie star. Is the A-list dead? Yes. Who are the top dogs now, especially actresses? No one. Like, I don't think there's an A-list. I think the A-list is dead. Late 90s, if Will Smith was in it, it was going to be a big hit. Arnold from 85 to 95 was going to be a big hit. Jim Carrey, he charged $20 million per movie because his name meant it was going to make $100 million. Will Ferrell could do it with comedies 20 years ago. He's a ice skater. He's a basketball player. He's a singer. He's a race car driver. That's just not the case anymore. Quentin Tarantino said it best where he said, Chris Evans isn't a movie star. Captain America is a movie star. When Chris Evans, you put him in a comic book movie and you'll sell a lot of tickets, but you put him in anything else, he's just a guy. It doesn't matter. Movie stars don't sell tickets anymore. All the conversation about Sydney Sweeney and look, Christy bombed. Was the issue that it starred Sydney Sweeney, or is the issue that it was a small budget movie about women's boxing with no marketing? Oh man, it looks like she can't carry a movie anymore. Like, well, no one can. The Rock can't open a movie with just his name anymore. They did a big marketing campaign for the Smashing Machine, film festivals, the whole tour, trailers playing all the time, all sorts of buzz and chatter. $6 million opening weekend. Emily Blunt was in the thing. 2 different A-listers. Well, what about Sinners? Well, Sinners was Ryan Coogler. And Ryan Coogler is one of a handful of directors that functions as a franchise in and of himself. He's made it into that category. Like, who's the actor that their name alone sells tickets? I don't know who that is anymore. It's so much of, did they pick the right role? Did they pick a movie people actually want? Scarlett Johansson is the biggest actress on the planet. Last July, she had a movie come out that cost $100 million. It was her with Channing Tatum, 2 movie stars. Its total box office gross was $42 million. Contrast that with this summer, she had a movie that made 20 times that amount because it was a franchise. She didn't sell tickets to Jurassic World. The dinosaurs did. Chris Evans is.
So obviously we've had the conversation around directors being the new movie stars. I think we've had that conversation a few times, I think, actually. And it's one I do think there's a lot of truth to that idea. I think directors are a little bit stronger in regards to a box office draw at this point than certain actors are. But personally, I do think there still are particular actors that draw people to films. I think in a lot of the examples that he showed in like The Rock and certain other actors, they are popular people, but I don't think they're necessarily big names in the realm of just acting alone. Like, they're big people, they're popular people, and people know them for acting, but that doesn't mean people enjoy seeing them act as much. I think when you see somebody like a Michael B. Jordan, like what was Buddy's name? I'm blanking on his name now. Oh my gosh, he was in the Lighthouse, Green Goblin. No, not Pattinson.
Willem Dafoe.
Like certain actors like that, people will hear about them in the film and go check that film out. Like Nosferatu was another film that came out where people saw Bill Skarsgård, saw all those names. They were like, okay, we're gonna go see Nosferatu. Now to that, I know you don't. It's not your thing, but people went and saw that. People love that film. I thought it was a really great movie. I enjoyed the film. Yeah, I know. I think it's a combination of a few things, but
that was, you mentioned The Lighthouse. You mentioned The Lighthouse, and then you couldn't mention the actors in it. And also, when it came, so it's the same director.
You know I'm bad with names, nigga. Don't do this. Don't do this.
No, what I mean is that's Robert Eggers. Robert Eggers made The Lighthouse, and Robert Eggers made Nosferatu.
I know that. I know that.
Robert Eggers is what sold Nosferatu in theaters, not Nicholas Hoult, not Willem Dafoe, who's also in the movie. I believe it was, again, the director's brand, his franchise. He sold that movie. That's what that video was showing. It's the directors themselves. Like I said before earlier in the show, I mentioned how Tarantino, you mentioned yourself too, Dev, Tarantino, Christopher Nolan, Martin Scorsese, Ryan Coogler, the directors are the brands, not the actors. So yeah.
Do you honestly believe Robert Eggers, like if you went to a casual fan on the street, or funny enough, we could do an experiment at some point and post this on if we want to do this. If Otis goes to Felicia now, someone who's probably more of a casual moviegoer, and says, hey, there's a new Robert Eggers movie coming out, do you honestly think she would be excited to see that or even know who he is?
So who do you think sold the movie?
I think Pattinson for the most part sold the movie. I think he still has a lot of his hype from.
But Robert Pattinson isn't in Nosferatu.
No, it's not The Lighthouse. Because I brought you about The Lighthouse.
You know how much that movie made?
It's one of those.
It wasn't a massive blockbuster hit. It was a small indie film. And so it had a small indie budget.
What was that, a limited release? I don't think it had a global release.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're saying like this massive,
but I'm talking about how, as far as how it was received.
Well, so are we talking about reception? Or are we talking about?
We're just talking about people discussing and wanting to go see a movie. If you want to talk about pure revenue, obviously, to his point, if you're putting a franchise out there like Jurassic Park or an Avengers movie, obviously those are going to gross more film. But if we're talking about people being excited about a film and wanting to go see a film, people have that thing where they're going to want to go see that thing. Obviously, a big example of that is Sinners, and that was kind of a combination of things because you have somebody that was riding high in a Michael B. Jordan and a Coogler was announced for that film, so that was a combination of the two. But I do still think that somebody like a Michael B. Jordan has enough cachet to be like, all right, he's doing a film, people are going to go see that film. Now, to that point, I do think it is also very much so dictated on the type of film it's in, because I do think certain actors have certain roles that fit them very much so. Like seeing Momoa announced as Lobo in a Supergirl movie, people are excited for that because they not only love Jason Momoa, this is also a role that they wanted to see him in since he was announced to even be into DCU at all as Aquaman. People were like, no, you should have been. He even wanted to be Lobo at a certain point. So I do think that's also dictated. Seeing somebody like Dwayne Johnson in the Smashing Machine, it's like, bro, people go to see movies you're in because you were the big meathead. We're not trying to see you in a serious role in like this. People, or somebody like, at least before all the drama, like a Sydney Sweeney, people fell in love with you because of the type of roles you were in with Euphoria. Now you're doing this dramatic ass role where you're trying to show up like people. If we keep it about, they want to see you for your titties. If we're keeping it 100% of that, wow. In a role where you're probably not going to be showing off all kinds of nudity and be over sexualized, people, the people that are fans of you aren't really going to want to go see that film like that. So I think it's not the same in regards to somebody like he brought up Will Ferrell. You can't just be like, Will Ferrell's going to do all this random shit, but because it's Will Ferrell, we'll go see it. I think now the person has to match the role a lot more now.
I see what you're saying. I definitely do. But so you brought this up. You brought this to us. The video clearly states the dude talking about how there are no more, or how there are A-listers. Yes, there are A-listers. But a star, they used to call them star vehicles as far as movies. Like movies were made specifically for a certain star actor. So, for example, in the 80s, they had lots of action movies that had Arnold in them as a big, tough guy. But those days, I agree with him. Anthony Mackie has a very famous clip on YouTube talking about how there are no more. He said it himself. He's like, Anthony Mackie is nobody. Anthony Mackie isn't a star. The Falcon sells tickets. The Falcon does these things. Anthony Mackie, no. So it's not a secret anymore in Hollywood. Yeah, the actors themselves, even the A-listers themselves, they aren't the draw for the movies. The franchises and the directors are. It's not opinion. He brought the example of having Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum were together in a rom-com, and it made $42 million. Jurassic World Rebirth, I believe, whatever it was, a terrible, terrible, terrible movie. Like I'm talking like 15% Rotten Tomatoes. It's like one of the highest grossing movies of the year because of the dinosaurs, because of the franchise. So it's not even a conversation whether or not it's true. It is true. Stars, A-listers aren't selling tickets anymore.
I don't believe that's true. Again, to the fashion of how it used to be in like the 80s and the 90s. Yes, I agree. People can't, like I said before, you can't just sell tickets off like at a random whim. I do think today, though, I think the right people can sell a film. I think the right people bring enough. I think they can really sell a film. At bare minimum, they get people in seats to see that thing initially, and then word to mouth carries it to go further on. Again, Sinners being the prime example as far as a film that people were excited for. I think I'm trying to remember back. I know I was excited really heavily when I heard it was announced, but I think mostly Black people were really excited when they first heard about it. But as far as everybody else, it became a word to mouth. Once Black folks started talking about it and promoting it up, you already know once we give something the fucking stamp of approval, everybody else wants to be in on whatever it is that Black folks are liking and whatever Black folks are talking about for the most part. So I think that's a scenario like that.
Like Coogler and Michael B, like their star power from like, their past projects. So Sinners, it wasn't in any, like if Michael B was in it by himself, like I don't think it would have had the same draw that if Coogler's name wasn't attached to it.
Yeah.
Do you think there? Let's say we put, because Jonathan Majors was originally announced to be in that. Well, not even him, because I think at that point too he was still he was flying high on stuff.
Flying low.
who's like a C-list actor that's like known for being attractive. We put like Michael Jai White in that film. Do you think it's as successful?
No,
No.
no. Michael J. White.
Do you think he gets as many butts and seats?
He's almost
Initially.
60 years old. Makes no sense to have Michael J. White in that movie. No.
Hell, Damson. Oh, Damson is also a big name. I'm trying to find somebody that isn't an A-list actor.
Did pretty well in F1. So I mean,
he did great in F1.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to find a movie. I'm trying to find a movie that's not like an A-list actor that kind of fits that similar mold as a Michael B. Hell, the dude from fucking All American. You know what I'm talking about? The other British guy, the other British actor. Where he's an attractive young black dude. He kind of fits a similar build, similar model. Do you think that movie does as well?
No.
Because again, I think butts get put in seat because Cooler's making a film. But as far as it being carried on or as many people being excited for that thing, I'm not saying Michael B had like all the hype for that. I do think to Otis's point, it was a combination of the two because they work together. It's almost on some Tarantino and Sam Jackson type of shit or Christoph Waltz thing to where they're a duo at this point where they just do shit together. But I do think I think the number of those A-list people are very far and few between now, but I do think there are particular actors that when it's announced they're doing a particular type of role, people will at least go see that thing to start with and then word of mouth care. I don't think you're going to have as many everybody in masses go to see that thing. I think people, because we talked about it before, how social media and word of mouth carry films a lot more than they did back in the day. Back in the day, I feel as though a movie came out and Arnold Schwarzenegger in an action movie, no matter what the fuck it is, he could be playing a raccoon that shoots people. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger. Everybody is going to go see that thing initially in droves now. Now people wait for their favorite content creator, their uncle, their auntie to give something the green light before they go see that thing. Whether it's a show, it's a game. Hell, Expedition 33 was a key example of that as far as when it hit the zeitgeist, people talking about it, it started rolling because that movie had no kind of a marketing budget. And it was that studio's first game that they put out. I think there's a lot of conversation around this, but not as much context in regards to how people consume media now is taken into account.
So it's funny because you presented us with the video, and the video has a guy pretty much saying more or less what you're saying now, as far as like things have changed. There was a time when actors were all you needed to sell a movie. That time is gone. That's pretty much what he's saying.
Yes,
that's the idea. And you're right, though. Yeah, definitely having an A tier, a really well respected actor, because Sinners also had Haley Steinfeld. Haley Steinfeld is actually she's hot. She's hot right now too. People love her as well. So having good A-list actors in your movie definitely helps sell it. There's no doubt about that, of course. But it's not the only thing that sells a movie. For example, y'all remember Barbenheimer, right? Barbenheimer, yeah. On Barbie had Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. Oppenheimer had Cillian Murphy. Florence Pugh's in there for a minute, but that movie still made all kinds of money. It was a Christopher Nolan joint, basically.
Let's keep in mind with that movie too. We're looking at Cillian Murphy and Nolan, who've done a lot of work together in the biggest movies he's ever put out in the Batman stuff, as well as Florence Pugh coming off of MCU stuff.
So Florence,
and then also that movie also had Robert Downey Jr. in it as well.
But what I'm saying is, it was Christopher Nolan. It was the next Nolan joint. It was a big, huge production. Nolan joint. And that's what we're saying here. We're not trying to say that the actors. I know I can tell you think that actors still matter. They do matter 100%. And they can detract from a movie as well if it's a bad actor or if it's someone that people don't like. I mean, Tron Ares is a terrible movie. It's even worse because it had Jared Leto. People boycott. People didn't want to say that movie because it had Jared Leto in it. So
a lot of AI issues that people were talking about with that movie as well.
Yeah. But it's not the same thing. I remember when I was a kid, my dad when I was a kid, my dad loves Steven Seagal, and he would just say, "Hey," I remember one time in particular, he said to my mom as he was walking out the door, he goes, "I'm going to see the next Seagal flick," and she goes, "Oh, what movie is it?" He goes, "I don't even know," and kept walking because if his name was on it, he was in it, he would go see it. That's all it took. But like you're saying, Dev, things are very different now. There is so much more scrutiny, or there's so much more access to movies and things of that nature. It used to be when I was younger, all you had was Siskel and Ebert and the newspaper to give you a review on a movie. So people just went to movies regardless. They went in there not knowing what it's going to be like.
Right.
It's not anymore. It just isn't.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of context missing. Because again, like I mentioned before, there's so many different ways people consume media and review it in regards to wanting to spend the dollars. We've already talked about in the past how much movies cost for the casual moviegoer. For people that don't have subscriptions, that don't keep up with all the deals to go see movies for the cheap ski, it's a big endeavor to go see it. So you're not going to just rush to see any movie depending on who it is, unless you know for a fact it's locked in. And to your point, the only thing that people have an idea of as far as movie quality is a director, because they're the ones making the movie. But to that same extent, I don't think you're going to get away with, like, I don't think even, let's say, let's move away from Tarantino, because at this point I'm tired of talking about the nigga. Let's say Nolan, right? Let's say Nolan puts a movie out, and we'll say Oppenheimer, right? Let's say Oppenheimer was coming out, but none of the actors, the A-list actors that were in that film were in that. And he had nothing but C-tier actors, where it's essentially a Sundance film at that point in regards to the level of people he has in the film. That movie is not as successful. It doesn't get as many butts in seats. Now, dude,
let me ask you a question real quick. Are you suggesting that Cillian Murphy put butts in seats?
No, I'm suggesting Robert Downey Jr., Florence Pugh, like MCU actors at that point in time, people that people are fans of, put butts in seats for that movie.
Who was the actor that put butts in seats for Nezha or Lilo and Stitch?
Yeah, and we're talking about animated films at that point.
I mean, those Lilo and Stitch is live action.
Yeah, it made $1 billion too.
Yeah, but it's a live action movie based off of the popularity of an animated film that was people love with the burning passion.
Yeah, but still, like it's the franchise. Yeah, it's not the
it's a franchise. It's a franchise
movie that drew people to see that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I already mentioned, I'm taking franchises out of it because we already know nostalgia is selling 90% of that. People are going to see things that they already are in love with. I don't have to convince somebody that's a fan of Lilo and Stitch as to why they should come see Lilo and Stitch. If you already love Lilo and Stitch, you're more than likely going to go see a live action movie of it for whatever reason. I don't know why, but people do that shit. With Jurassic Park, we've seen a million bad Jurassic Park movies. Director aside, it doesn't matter who the director is. The IP itself is strong enough to sell that particular type of thing. If we're having a conversation around movies that are not connected to an IP, where it's just director or actor and who's more responsible for putting butts in seats, at that point, that's where the conversation leads. And I just feel as though the casual moviegoer is going to lean more into the actor side of things, because we and most people that see a lot of movies lean into certain directors. Obviously, I think certain directors like Tim Burton, people that have been around for a very long time, have that cachet. Tarantino at this point, because he's so outspoken and he puts his face everywhere. Scorsese, I think those level of directors have that, the top of the top. But everybody else, I think, because it's like looking at, I'm not going to put it to sports because I know we have a lot of people that don't like basketball like that. I don't have a basketball analogy, but the top of the mountain, yes, people have that. But when you're looking at every other director underneath them, I don't think they have that same pull. I don't think Robert Eggers has the pull that a Christopher Nolan has. I don't think Nia DaCosta has the same pull that Scorsese has. People go and see those movies because of what they're a part of and who the actors are, not because of them in particular.
Sure, and
the top of the Jordan Peele's, them, they're like, if we keep it a buck, there are probably like 6, maybe 7 directors that have that ability to where you announce that they're doing a film and you're going to go see it. All the other hundreds of other directors do not have that pull. People don't know who they are. People do not care about who they are. They'll maybe look at me like, oh, who made this film? Oh, he did this other thing too. Cool. Or like, who did Weapons? I'm looking on the director's name that did Weapons. Zach Krieger. People love Weapons, but not too many people know who the fuck Zach Krieger is or even how to pronounce his name right, because it could be Krieger. But I guarantee you that because he's doing the next Resident Evil movie, people are like, oh, they're going to sell that as the guy that did this Weapons movie, not just Zach Krieger. It's Zach Krieger who did such and such. They try to attach him to something. That's where I think those type of directors, that's where the idea of the A-list actor gets really leaned into heavily, because you can't market this film off this director's name alone. So the top 5, 6, 7, sure, yes. Jordan Peele, they have that. Coogler, whoever else, but everyone else does not have that. So you making a quintessential idea on the entire movie industry as a whole based off of these top 6 people, I don't know. I just think that's a little disingenuous, in my opinion.
So here's what I'll say to that, and I'll Otis.
See Nezha.
Nezha's a great movie.
Bro, that is a Chinese film. You have an entire country of billions of people that are going to watch something like that.
Yeah,
Again, that's something that's not an honest review. That's not an honest movie to have that conversation about.
So here's the thing. You are saying the same thing, but you don't realize you're saying the same thing, Charlie. You're saying franchises and you're saying directors. The directors are the franchise. So with obviously Lilo and Stitch, for example, it made $1 billion. I have no idea who the director is. Couldn't matter less. It made that money because of it was purely Lilo and Stitch. And also it had a horrible ending. People were pissed about the ending, but it didn't matter. you're also talking about Ryan Coogler, and you're talking about like Tarantino and Nolan, all these guys. Again, like I said before, the directors are the franchise. If let's say for example, it was
Those directors are.
Brian Smith made Oppenheimer. I guarantee you, nobody would care or seen it, because why would they? But because it has Christopher Nolan's name on it, of course, people go in droves to see it. We have the Avengers movies that are coming out. Think about how Marvel has fallen off the ladder. They have lots of them. Like the last Captain America movie had Anthony Mackie in it. Anthony Mackie is still in that movie, but it made like $430 million. It was a bomb, pretty much. Because
Captain America: Brave World made 450. I had it pulled up from earlier. It made 415 million.
450 million, right? So that's a lot less money than a lot of other movies, and it still has Anthony Mackie in there. It still has Giancarlo Esposito in there. It has name actors in there.
You're missing. There's a lot of context you're not applying to that though in regards to the state of the MCU at that point.
Let me finish. Let me finish real quick.
Yeah.
All I'm saying to you is, these days, filmmaker. You keep saying the word casual filmmaker, casual moviegoer. Casual moviegoers aren't trying to see a lot of movies. They see one movie every month or 2 months, and it's got to be good. And it's got to be something they want to see. That's why studios keep pumping out sequels and reboots and other things like that, because it has a nostalgia factor, because it has a built-in IP that people know and like. The directors can do what they want to do because they're big name directors. If you have a good movie that has good actors in it, it still take a good chance. It still may bomb. It's just how it is sometimes.
Again, I'm not disagreeing with that. You're not. The point I'm trying to make in this is, when you're applying again, the context, there's a lot of context missing here, because you bring up the MCU with like the Captain America: Brave New World. There's a lot of context around people's view on the MCU as a whole was in the shitter at that point. We know that. So that off rip that's I don't think that's a genuine way to look at that in particular, using that as an example. Otis bringing up Neja, a film that is based around Chinese culture, made by Chinese studios, that is more than likely going to get boosted by the fact that people of our whole culture get to see something. Because we already know 9 out of 10 when things that we put over that get to China is usually edited, usually altered a lot in marketing, in the way the film is in general, to fit what their government seems as like culturally appropriate. We've seen it with Star Wars and the fact that the black man was minimized on the poster, even though he was supposed to be a major part of the film. Those, I think, are disingenuous to bring up. We're talking about films, any other film that has been popular that did not have attached to a franchise. Because when you're bringing up franchises, those are easy to market and automatically easy to market. Those are going to be successful regardless of the director, regardless of the actor, because you have that pull there. I'm not talking about those. Even in the 80s, I think those franchises would supersede the A-list actors at that point. Like a Predator movie, no matter who the actor was going to sell. Whether it was Arnold, whether it was... I'm gonna say Billy D. Williams. I'm blanking on my friend's name in Predator 2. Danny Glover. No matter who it is, Predator is going to sell, even in the 80s. What I'm talking about now is the factor of, yes, you have the top of the line people. It's like an NBA. You have the superstar players, yes. But just because these superstar players are a particular way does not then indicate how the rest of the league and the rest of the field is looking at. Those directors we talk about, they make movies every 2 to every 5 years-ish. Tarantino only has 10 movies in his catalog, and he's been around how long? Jordan Peele only has 4 or 5 films. They don't make movies that often. When I'm talking about every other director and every other person in Hollywood that fills those gaps of films every year, because movies still come out. Because Tarantino, Scorsese, because they don't make films, Hollywood doesn't stop making movies. Everybody else makes movies. My point being, when they're not making movies and everyone else and the other 90% of films that come out, the actors usually sell those films. People do not know or care about who the director are for those films unless the movie is like a major hit, and then their name gets put out there more and more. I think Zach Krieger is probably going to be more of a household name because Weapons did so well, and then now he's about to do Resident Evil, which is a major IP, which is going to put a lot more people in seats to see what his talent is as far as that goes. But if he didn't do Resident Evil, he did another movie called, I don't know, The Kitchens, I don't fucking know, he'll probably get a little bit of buzz from Weapons if they market, but in doing that film, they market that as the guy who did Weapons, not Zach Krieger. Robert Eggers, yes, he's done a lot of films, but he doesn't have the draw himself to put butts in seats. Nia DaCosta has done some dope stuff. Even in her doing an MCU film, she did The Marvels. They didn't market that as a Nia DaCosta film. If she did Candyman, they didn't market it as a Nia DaCosta film. They marketed it as a Jordan Peele produced film. Most directors don't have that pull. You're talking about a small few. The actors are the ones that usually put butts in seats for every other movie. The Glass Onion that came out, or any of those films, those films get butts in seats because you have all these A-list actors a part of that film. This
It's 'cause of
who done it
Netflix.
film, and it's yeah, as far as Netflix goes too, but we've seen a million other Netflix movies that have bombed, even if it's because it's on Netflix. People don't give that a chance. People gave that movie a chance because of the actors that were in it, not the director.
But that's what we're saying. That's what he was. The video you brought to show us. That's what he's saying.
No, his point was because he brought up because he showed a picture of Chris Evans in The Glass Onion. What was it? I think it was The Glass Onion or Knives Out. I can't remember which one.
It was
Knives Out. I think
it was the Christmas movie. That it didn't matter. But
either or, yeah. It was a movie that wasn't that shit. It was one of those, yeah.
The point that he made was that actors are not selling movies. You're saying right now that there's a billion
movies. Incorrect, because he's only pointing at major box office films. When you're looking at every other movie that does, because those major box office movies aren't the only ones that do well. Other movies do well. They don't have the $100 million, but they do well.
I see what. Yes, I understand. I definitely understand what you're saying, Charlie. I definitely do. What I am trying to voice to you, what I'm trying to say to you is, if you simply have an A-list actor in a movie, there is no guarantee that it will do well. Not like it used to be. Again, the reference he made, because he actually had it. He's talking about Chris Evans was in like 4 or 5 movies this year. They didn't all do well. There's one that had him, Dakota Johnson, right? And Pedro Pascal. Movie didn't do that great.
I know what you're talking about. I'm gonna check that actually. Yeah. Go ahead though.
It didn't do that great. And it may have been because it was a kind of a weird story, but it didn't do that great. He mentioned Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum. They were in a movie together. Didn't do that great either. Made $42 million. So he's bringing up the idea that yes, you can have successful films that don't have A-listers that are, or they do have A-listers but don't have massive franchise directors or aren't part of a franchise or whatever it might be. Yes, you can have success, but those are more outliers. You brought up Nudgy, right?
So just really quickly
movie,
to your point,
The Materialist. The Materialist. The idea you brought up, that amazing Chinese animated film. Yes, that's great. It had a huge box office in China. I don't know how well it did here in America because it's not part of a franchise that most people in America know about.
We can check a lot of this. The Materialist made $100 million globally on a $20 million budget. Yeah. Would you consider that a success?
I mean, I consider it a success. But I mean, but Crystal Evans was also in some other movies that didn't do nearly as well.
We can check them all. We can check them real quick. If you want to just, if we're going to follow this, we can look at the numbers of how these movies performed.
I think the thing was, I mentioned that one. I think the movie that clip wasn't from that Tears. I believe it was from Red One. That specific image he had of Chris Evans was from Red One. Red One, okay. I know it didn't make money. It had The Rock in it. It had Chris Evans. It had J.K. Simmons, and it did not do well. It bombed pretty hard in theaters. I'm not saying that all these movies will bomb. Of course, some will make money. Of course, it will, but it's not a surefire. It's not a sure bet like it used to be. That's all we're trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, going counter to the point, like we talked about the success and the engine behind Sinners. We know, like we simply said, like Coogler and Michael B were the main draws for that. Like even having that power that they had, it still made less money than Captain America, which had so much going against it. Like so much going against it. So I mean, that's just more fuel to the fire. It's like the franchises fuel the box office, not necessarily.
But that's not a new thing, though. When it comes to, I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing the franchise thing. That was a thing even during the peak of A-list actors, like being in the office. Like we know that. We know they're going to draw those in.
What you're saying is there are plenty of other movies out there that don't have A-list directors, that don't have franchises with them, that still make money because of the actors involved.
If the majority of the field is made up of smaller films that have these A-list actors that do well, I think that should dictate what the culture is. I think people build a narrative off of the small minority of stuff and make that the narrative for everything else. Yes, these few things do well because of what they're attached to.
Bring up some of these examples of movies that have A-list actors that are not directed by franchise directors, or that they themselves aren't big directors, that are not in franchises that do well. Bring up some of those movies.
Okay, so off top, you mentioned The Materialist. We talked about that more than doubled its budget. A lot of it I can get into horror as far as like box office stuff.
Are most of those A24?
Is Zach Krieger A-list director to you?
No, with that I think Weapons, it came off of people like Barbarian, so it has some steam because of Barbarian. and then also had a really good marketing
That
campaign.
movie was poorly received, though. Barbarian?
What was it? Was
Barbarian.
well received. Barbarian was well received. It was well received.
Go ahead, but you're fine. But again, let's look at we talked about a lot of the big movies this year. We know Barbarian. We know that Weapons did well. We acknowledge Zach Krieger is an actor or a director who is not an A-list director, who his only prominent thing before that was Barbarian, which we can check. I want to check how much money Barbarian made in regards to like it being this overwhelming thing that put butts in seats. But I don't believe that was the case. I think the fact that you put Julian, is it Carpenter? What's her name? The woman who's essentially like the fact that the Fantastic Four is out and one of the lead actors from that film was also in this, and then Thanos was in this film. I think that put butts in seats for that film.
She was also in The Wolfman. How much money did The Wolfman make?
The Wolfman, we can check.
Didn't Weapons do better after it made it to streaming than it did in theaters? Because
that movie did amazing in theaters.
It did well. It did very well. Again, the marketing for Weapons, it had a really, really good marketing campaign. The whole trailer, as far as like at this time at 2:17 at night, all these kids left and they never returned. It's like that's the most interesting hook ever. And it's a horror movie too. It was fairly low budget. So it made
The Wolfman made a $140 million worldwide budget against a $25 million budget.
Wait, so I'm sorry, which one was that?
The Wolfman with Julia. Is it Gardner? I think it's Julia Gardner is her name.
Julia Gardner, okay.
140 million worldwide on a budget of 25 million.
How much? 25 million? Yeah. And how much?
Go ahead.
How much did Weapons make?
Weapons. Let me check Weapons real quick. Weapons closed 268 million globally. And where's the budget at? On a $38 million budget.
Yeah, so about the same. So
this is what I'm talking about. These films do well, and they're based around these A-list actors that put butts in seats. These directors aren't A-list directors. I think the A-list actor for that film more than likely is oh my God, I'm blanking on this nigga's name right now.
Josh Brolin.
And Josh Brolin. I put her in that conversation because at the same time in theaters, a major MCU film that everybody went to see, she was a prominent figure in.
So I see what you're saying. I see what you're getting at. I get it. I definitely, you made that point very, very clear. All I'm saying to you is it doesn't have, A-list actors do not have, we've talked about this, we've circled this, beat this dead horse so many times.
Yeah.
I don't think, and it's the whole point of that video, that guy's video. It's the whole point of Hollywood now. I literally have friends in Hollywood that are like, yeah, the actors do not, they do not bring in, they don't put butts in the seats as much as IPs do and as much as franchises do. That's why we have so many reboots, so many sequels, and why there's so many movies made that go right to streaming, because it's actually putting butts in seats in theaters.
I think they do. I think the issue revolves around the fact that people only want MCU level money. Like people don't, again, we've talked about in the past in regards to what the way people would define a successful movie isn't that you made your budget and then some, it's the fact that you tripled your budget. People want that big money number. We talked about The Materialist, a film that you said nobody cared about, that we just saw that was a definitive success. Even by the normal metrics of Hollywood, of a movie that tripled its budget. The Wolfman, a movie that for the most part, I don't think it was well received. I know I liked it. I thought it was all right, but I didn't love it like that. 140 million. And that was, at that point, Julia Carpenter had not even been nowhere near an MCU film at that point.
No,
and that film still did well. She
was already cast in it. She was in Ozarks, so she had a name. She was already doing stuff.
So yeah, she was not A-list, but to your point, she had a name. My point being, we went through all these examples of films where these actors are the thing, at least in my opinion, I think that's what sold it. Because again, if the majority of Hollywood are these movies, that is what it is. I think people have a narrative based off of a small number of things happening, and it's a small sample size.
So let me ask you this then too. Let me ask you this right now to your face.
Mm-hmm.
Since you've been doing this part of the show, you have consistently struggled to name these A-list actors, and you're a person who goes to movies probably once a week or so.
Because I don't remember names of people. I don't even remember names of anime characters. I don't remember names of characters off the top of my head like that.
But the point I'm trying to make is, if you are struggling to remember these people's names, imagine how much other people are struggling to remember them at all. We all know Arnold. You say the name Arnold, we all know that. We'll mention actors like Will Smith or Scarlett Johansson, big name actors that have been around for a long time. So imagine all the new up and coming actors trying to do things in movies. If people can't remember their names or have no idea who they are or don't care about them,
People remember faces though.
but
I
they
think that's
can't
the thing with when I like again for weapons for instance. I think for most of the time, whenever I go see these movies, I'll tell you guys about like who's in what movie, and I say the guy that was in this, that, or the third. People remember faces. Names for most people are really hard to even for directors. People know who these people are because you see them and you remember their performances. To your point, and they market it that way.
But they can't market it as the guy that was in this. They have to say the guy's name. Like for example, with the Running Man, Man had Glenn Powell in it. The Running Man with Glenn Powell. It said Glenn Powell. It didn't say the guy that was in he was in the Hitman on Netflix, or he was also in Top Gun Maverick as that blonde guy. It had to say his actual name.
But Ethan, you're being disingenuous because using that same logic, people don't know these directors at all, Ethan.
But they do. They mention Christopher Nolan movie. They say people.
Take those 5 people out of the conversation. There are hundreds of other movies with hundreds of other directors that come out every year.
But they don't know.
People don't know those directors.
But the thing is, those are usually sold by the distribution companies. It'll be like Lionsgate said this, A24 said that, Skydance did this. Like, it's still something that people can latch onto that's driving those forward.
Something has to be there to sell these movies.
That's my point. Again, if we're looking at the pie of what brings people in, I think it's to that point just so overdriven and not accurate in regards to the director thing. I'm just in any other thing, we don't take the small sample size and say that's the field. When people say video games are dead, we don't look at the top 5 stuff in Gotham Knights, in Cyberpunk when that first dropped, and say, oh, because these major games flopped, that gaming is dead. No, we look at all the other thousands of games that come out that are well produced and well made that we enjoy. This is the only time where we'll take this small number of people and say, because these things flop or because they didn't make hundreds of millions of dollars, now the entire industry is this. This is the narrative now. When every other movie that comes out that's successful,
I think you're right. I think you're right, and that's what we're saying. Movie theaters is getting people are going to them less and less and less. And what used to bring them in was the A-list. It used to help a lot was A-list actors.
Yes, yeah.
And now the A-list actors by themselves are not enough by themselves to bring out people. It used to be. Back in the day, having an A-lister in your movie was more than enough. That was the marketing was literally just, here's Denzel Washington and here's Julia Roberts in the movie The Pelican Brief. Pelican Brief, what the hell is that? Doesn't matter. As Julia Roberts in it, has Denzel Washington, I'm there. Nowadays, you can't do that. It doesn't work as well.
I think this also has a similar issue to when you're looking at the music industry, specifically rap music. I think that's also a narrative in regards to not having the same level of rappers, whatever it may be. I think it's just the option of, or the issue of there being a lot more options. Yes. Back during that time, it wasn't easy to get your indie film made, or unless you were going through these major studios or these major people, your movie was not going to see the light of day. There was a small number of films that were going to get made because you had to go through this channel of getting your thing out there. Now, a movie like The Materialist can happen because, like, nowadays it's very, very regular that we see a movie get greenlit or a movie get made because a particular actor is willing to back it. Even in anime, we looked at something like Afro Samurai back in the day, where that anime only got made because Sam Jackson himself vouched for that and then decided to be the leading actor for that. I think that's more what it is now versus back in the day, there was a limited number of space and only these people got to make stuff. That's my point being, if there are so many other people that are out there that are being successful in this field, why are we making this mass narrative on the field when these top 5 people, the issue we're having is with traditional Hollywood and how things normally go, because the mold of traditional Hollywood is failing.
The narrative is out there about that. The narrative does say that people are going to movie theater a lot less. This is one of the things. It's not saying this is the only thing. I agree. It's not the only fact. It's not the only reason. I agree with that. It's not the only reason. And also, to your credit too, yes, to get anything greenlit these days, it always helps to have an A-lister involved. That's still the case. Even if the A-listers themselves don't necessarily put all the butts in the seats, to get funding or get backing from a studio, a major studio, having A-lister in there definitely helps. 100%. Yeah, of course. Nothing's changed. That's still the same.
Yeah, I think again, at the end of the day, I think this is a lot of, at least personally, I think it's a lot of metrics that are being skewed, and I think it's a lot of the toxicity of how old Hollywood went about producing a film. I think
Well,
because
in your
that,
opinion,
I think because the traditional way of going about things is crumbling now, like the fact you don't have, there's no easy formula. Like to your point, there's no guarantee that any movie does well, even if you have a big name director behind it. Because that model isn't a simple formula like it was in the 80s, people look at it as, oh, everything's crashing down now because we can't make easy money anymore. We have to actually try to market this thing. Marketing matters a lot more than it did back then. We can't just say, oh, Arnold Schwarzenegger here, we'll come make a movie now. You don't have to, now you have to do what you do with something like a Sinners or whatever it may be, to where half your budget, or if not more, goes into marketing, because you have to sell your thing to people. You can't just rely on that anymore. And I think because that is the case, people say, oh, movie is dying or Hollywood is dying, whatever it may be. People think there's this major issue when you just can't be lazy anymore. You have to make the attempts to sell things to people now. No matter movies, music, otherwise, you can't do that anymore.
You know, I feel it. I feel it. And it's since for a long time it has been primarily that they always say that movies had to make 2 times, like 2.5 their budget to make a profit usually, or to make some money, really. So that's been around for a while. It's not a recent thing that movies have been advertising or print and advertising for their movies. They've been doing that for a long time. I think though, one of the biggest factors is, like you brought up the idea, you touched on it briefly. There is just so much competition out there, not in theaters, but just as far as entertainment in general. People can stay at home and watch all kinds of things on streaming now. They do not have to go to the theater, so they won't.
Not to mention the
that's a big
speed
factor
of
too.
things getting out of theaters and onto streaming is so fast. I'll wait the 2-3 months for it to get to streaming and enjoy it then.
Or a month. Superman was on HBO like about a month after it was in theater. I think it was still in theaters while it was on HBO. That's crazy. Remember the whole Black Widow fiasco?
How much do y'all feel like marketing money from films have like skyrocketed? Like I don't think, let's say, a movie like what was the movie that Arnold and Danny DeVito were in, where they were like brothers back in the 90s? Twins. Do you think like a movie like Twins had the same marketing budget as something like Sinners? Like two stories that are drastically not attached to any kind of a franchise, but did well. I'm curious. I'm curious. Well, because that may not be the best movie to put that. I'm trying to think of maybe Underworld. Well, do you think maybe Underworld 1 is a better comparison? I'm trying to think of a movie that like compares to that.
We can do this one. Jurassic Park 1. Now there was no franchise. There was no franchise. There was no franchise. So Jurassic Park 1, when that came out, they did have to market it pretty heavily, pretty hard. Sure, it did have Spielberg's name on it, but it didn't matter. There was still so much other stuff out there. Also, there are no A-listers in that movie. Sam Neill, Laura Dern, come on now. They're not A-listers.
Now, obviously, some of this is going to be adjusted for inflation, but they say it's an extensive budget at that point was $65 million. So they said they put a lot of money into marketing to that point. Now it's $65 million versus something like a Sinners with Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan attached to it had needed a $90 million budget to market that film. For inflation. For inflation, yeah, of course. Yeah. That's why I was trying to think of a more recent film that kind of fit that mold. That was still kind of like, that's why I said Underworld, because that was like what, early 2000s. I feel like when that movie came out. Like inflation is still going to be a thing, but it's not like the 90s versus 7 years later.
Right. I think regardless, there's always you always had to put some money into, because the reason the Weapons was so successful was because they did a really good push on marketing. There's no way around it. They did a good push for that. Yes, it helped. It helped having Josh Brolin and Julia Gardner in there, of course. It didn't hurt, but I also had Wand from Doctor Strange in there too. But it takes. I think the overall message is it's harder. It's just harder to get butts and seats in theaters. That's all.
Yeah. Damn, I was looking at Underworld 1. Underworld 1, they made that for like a relatively cheap budget. Like in total, that movie was like made on 35 to 45 million, including production.
Oh, we've gone on for 2 hours.
Yeah, I had to look at that. That was my own brain for Underworld specifically, but my bad, go ahead.
Bottom line is marketing is difficult. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of concerted effort. Having people that people recognize in your marketing increases the value of your marketing, but it's not the sole seller of a thing. It has to be like, culturally relevant. It has to be, engaging enough to like actually get people to pay attention to it. And that comes from accumulation of, whatever the premise is and showcasing that, however you're packaging the thing that you're showcasing, and then yes, having things that people either care about, whether it be the franchise, whether it be the actor, whether it be the director. It's just having something that people can attach themselves to, bottom line.
Agree.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
But yeah, that was did not expect for that to be the biggest part of the conversation, but
I knew it would be.
glad we had it.
This I love you to pieces, Charlie. So it's something that's come up before. It's something that's clearly is a hot button issue for you. I get it.
Honestly, I didn't think it would be that much of a hot button issue. Like when I got that clip, I was like, "Oh, we're talking about this shit."
No, it's not the actors. It's the issue as far as why movies aren't doing as well. That's come up numerous times.
It's more so just I don't like when
get
people
back into a tangent. Let's stop here.
No.
Yeah,
I don't.
Closing close to 2 hours.
Yeah. Close up shop. Close up shop.
Yeah, we'll finish on. We'll finish on this. Yeah, old Hollywood and the way things were done, because things are coming undone and you have to try now. People, I just think people were lazy back in the day for a lot of this stuff. I ain't gonna lie, I just think it's a lot of it's laziness. But yeah,